Hey, so I wanted to talk about community and the importance of finding the right kind of community, conscious community, if you are upgrading your life. If you're trying to make big changes in your life and trying to shift paradigms within your own mind or, just upgrade your thinking. Um, Community is so important, and it's not just any community, it's finding the right community. And this is something that has become so clear to me, especially lately. And I also wanted to talk about this because I think this topic is so relevant to what's happening right now in the world. People are feeling really isolated. I've been on so many different calls, like group calls, where people are talking about how they're alone, with everything that's been happening. People aren't socializing as much. I don't know how many people have told me things like, I forgot how to socialize during lockdown, I think that this idea of finding community is very much on a lot of people's minds. And so I want to talk about that. Okay, so this discussion is relevant for people who are trying to, upgrade their life, doing a lot of personal improvement, personal development kind of work. Um, it's always about improving your mindset, right? And I'm sure if you've done some personal development work, you've heard about this idea that you are the sum total of the 5 people that you surround yourself with the most. I don't know where that came from. I know Tony Robbins says it a lot. I don't know, maybe Jim Rohn. Where did it originate? I have no idea. Let me know if you know. But I feel like it's definitely true. It makes so much sense. In my experience, it makes sense. Um, we're just these social animals. We pick up behaviors and patterns from other people, and we don't even realize we're doing it. And I feel like it's just also instinctual to kind of want to be like the people you're around, just to feel this sense of communion with them. And so if the people that you're around have a lot of behaviors that, maybe you like most of them, but then they have some other really annoying behaviors, or things that, okay, this is what would happen to me, is that, for me, in my case, I love all people. And this is kind of my problem, is that for a really long time I wasn't being very exclusive about what kinds of people that I want to let into my field. What kind of people do I want to expose myself to? And as a result, I would find myself around people that were, great. Maybe they're nice people, but they still have some habitual thinking patterns that are the same as the ones that I'm trying to extinguish. Um, Maybe some limiting beliefs. I've had this in the past where I've had limiting beliefs that I'm really trying to move on from, and adopting a new set of beliefs. But if you're surrounding yourself socially with people who have that same limiting belief, and they keep reminding you of it, it's almost impossible to extinguish that limiting belief. And it feels horrible to do, which is why I struggled with this for so long, because I don't like the idea of leaving people behind, or walking away from people. It's not to abandon them, but it's more to spend more time around people who can reinforce better thinking habits for you and remind you of those better thinking habits. So another problem that I had was that I would identify certain people who would have habits that I don't want to keep going. in my own mind, and I kind of want to move away from that type of thinking. So I knew that I wanted to spend less time around these people, but I didn't have anybody else to kind of like fill their place, you know? And this is the idea of like, I knew that I wanted to be more around conscious community, but sometimes it's not available to you at the moment. And I feel like this is going to be like sounding a little strange, but and this is not for everyone. I get it. But what I am seeing is that definitely for me, one thing that helped me was kind of like spending more time isolating myself, being okay with being alone. And, you know, we still have like this need to be around people. So, getting a little bit of that social fix, that I'm like sacrificing a little bit of time away from like real live interactions, which is healthy. It's healthy to have real live interactions, totally. But there's like some balancing act too. And so I would figure out how to find a balance of, having some social interaction, but also if it wasn't the right kind of social interaction, like balancing it with learning from people on the internet. And this is kind of like the beauty of the internet era where we can almost feel like we know people on the internet when we've never met them in person. Like, and I'm talking like watching like different personalities. Like instead of Kim Kardashian, you can watch somebody who is like more conscious, and you kind of feel like you're having a social interaction. And this is also the downside, because this is like the dark side of the internet, is where we have these like parasocial relationships where people get very invested in this one-sided relationship with somebody on the internet who doesn't know who they are. And that's not good. But I am saying that, like, in the interim of finding a conscious community, you can bring in some of that higher consciousness, social energy, by finding people who do have a mindset that you want to adopt, and watching them and watching their personality. The more that you spend time around just observing and watching their personality, you do pick these things up. Even just getting a dose of that, I think, is really helpful and can start to tilt the needle in the direction of like, having more conscious social interactions in your life. So that's just one thing that like I have found has been really helpful for me. I don't know if that's for everybody, but I do tend to just like more retreat from social interactions if I'm really trying to make some changes or shifts in the quality of my social circle, really. I can definitely say, and again, this is not for everybody, but I can definitely say I make huge shifts in my spirituality, in my mental health, if I am going from a situation where I'm hanging out with people that are not necessarily, they're not lifting me up, they're not higher vibration, and I just isolate myself and put all of my energy into what I'm looking for. That shifts so much for me. So it's not necessarily about even removing yourself from toxic people. It's just people who are not doing anything for you. They're not lifting you up. I learned how important it was to be in this like total immersion state of whatever it is that you're looking to create in your life. So for me, I'm looking for like to change my mindset, to shift this like mental paradigm, many mental paradigms about like, abundance and self-worth and what is actually possible in this world. All of these things are very hard to shift unless you're like surrounded by other people who think the same way. And when I was living in Bali, I lived in Bali for about 2 years, and I was living in this new agey community in Ubud, and it's a very like healer, like everybody there is like a healer. It's very new agey, and my rate of progression, like learning, shifting my consciousness, shifting my mindset, shifting the way that I just saw the world to a more beneficial way of seeing the world. That progression was so rapid when I was in Ubud, just being around these people. It's like everybody was on the same level, everybody was having the same conversations. You just learn so quickly because that's all you're ever talking about. Everybody's talking about the same thing, and everybody's trying to shift their mindset in the same way. So it just becomes very easy because we're all on the same track, on the same goal. And the thing is that the mind, it finds confirmation, right? It's like a confirmation finder. That's how self-fulfilling prophecies work. So if you decide something, it's going to find the evidence of it being true. And if you're surrounded by people who are echoing the same thing, it's so much easier and faster for that to happen. You can change your mindset very quickly. When we're changing paradigms, you need reinforcement because it's like, it's such a heavy, deep thing that you're trying to shift. And I feel like this is something that everybody's trying to do right now and is aware of. It's like in the mainstream consciousness right now is shifting paradigms. So, I mean, that's a good thing, but imagine how much more rapid that growth is, the acceleration, when you are surrounded, totally immersed within people who are thinking the same way, have the same goals, right? So definitely important to find the right community for you. But the problem is that our society, the way that it is set up, it's a lot harder for that to happen. I don't think our society is like as conducive as it could be to facilitate community, especially this kind of community. Like, I found that even yoga classes, if they're not put together well, like some classes are set up so that like there's a communal area that everybody has to filter through, and it facilitates conversation and like community building. But most yoga studios aren't even built like that, and it's like people show up for yoga and then they go home, and then like nobody really gets to know. I mean, some people do, like probably the most social people in the class will like make a contact or something, but it's not like really facilitating like a real community. And that's a shame, because I think that that's like something that people maybe assume that that's a place to go for community, and I haven't found that to be true. So I am definitely thinking and hoping, and I think that this is going to happen, is that people are going to put more effort into thinking about how to better facilitate interactions to create like community, and like tighter community, not just like a hi here and there, or like see somebody once a month, like a real community. So I think that that's going to be more and more important to people. And so people are going to naturally find more solutions for that, because people are craving it right now. So I was thinking about a few different ways to make it easier to find conscious community, and finding the right kind of community for you. And this is like when you get to a point where you're like, wow, I really don't have, like, I have people around me, but they're not the right kinds who are like uplifting me. They're not necessarily bringing down, they're not toxic, but they're not raising me to where I want to be. And so I would say that there are 3 things that could be helpful for you. One is like basically a form of deprivation. So you do have to keep your circle small enough and keep yourself hungry enough for social interaction, um, and like to be open, not only to be open to try new things and go to new places, because like it's everybody. I mean, it's like different matter of degrees to which like new situations cause anxiety, but like nobody wants to go to a new place where they don't know anybody. I mean, it's not as fun. And if you don't deprive yourself, you're going to be so busy that you're not going to even be open to the possibility of having new types of people come in. So you do have to do a little bit of deprivation, um, in order to make yourself open to finding the right people. It's just like when you're dating. Like, let's say you're dating the wrong person for you, and you know it, but you also don't want to be alone. So you keep dating this person, and like, most of the time you're spending all your good nights out with this person in this relationship that's going nowhere. But those are all nights that you could be going out and dating. And dating is like, not the most pleasant thing, but it's what you have to do in order to like find the right person. And deprivation keeps you hungry. So that's one thing. And it's like the whole idea of like the YouTube mentors, there are so many people that you can watch for hours, like on YouTube, and listen to them talk and like see them in different situations, different interviews, see how they like react to different situations. And you can just see how their mind works, and that kind of reinforces a different mindset for you. If you know that this person has the kind of mindset and the belief system that you want to adopt, spend time watching them and at least get some of your social fix by watching the best of the best, because it's available now on the internet. And then my last suggestion is to keep looking, because it takes a while sometimes, and it's out there, and it's a matter of putting yourself in different situations enough times. And a lot of the time it's a matter of like getting to know the kind of wrong people to point you in the direction of the right people. And that does happen. And it's just like a matter of like time and going out to different things, and like not really settling for like the community or the vibes that aren't for you, or like aren't doing anything for you. Just keep looking, and you will eventually get closer to it. So that's all the suggestions and all the thoughts that I have for tonight. And thank you for watching. And if you have any thoughts on the subject, please type them in the box below, and I would love to reply to you. Would love to know your thoughts, and yeah, hope you have a good night. Okay, bye.